I'm Reverend J. Stewart Glover, and you are listening to Faith Talk. Today's guest is Stephen Beard, and today we're wrapping up our 8-episode series on metabolic health. Today we're going to be sharing some success stories and talking about next steps, how to go forward, and we hope that you've been blessed by this series. Stephen, I'd invite you to come on in and again introduce yourself to those who are just checking in for the first time, and perhaps recap a few of the things that we've been talking about so far.
Of course, and thanks for the intro. For all the listeners, my name's Stephen, and as Reverend Glover stated, we are wrapping up our awesome series on metabolic health. I am a diabetes prevention coach, a health and wellness practitioner, as well as in functional medicine as well. Just a quick recap, over the past, I would say 8 weeks, we've really just been delving into what metabolic health actually is and discussing some of the lifestyle chronic illnesses that stem from our metabolic health in regards to like hypertension, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, kidney and heart health, as well as cholesterol and our triglyceride numbers. And today I will be spending some time just sharing with all of you some of the success stories that I have had with some of my patients/clients, hoping that they will shine some light and help encourage you guys to take action in trying to make some lifestyle changes and improve your overall health and wellness. And also just to know that even if you have been diagnosed with a metabolic condition or any health condition, for that matter, that it's not the end of the road. And there are many protocols when we look at it from a holistic and functional perspective that you are able to take to get your life on a journey to be able to improve your specific conditions, as well as your overall health and wellness long term.
Amen. Well, from what you've said so far, it sounds like there is hope for a brighter tomorrow. So why don't we jump right into some of this success that you've been talking about so far?
Of course. So some of the successes I really would like to just share with you guys. I've just been extremely excited just regarding the clients and the patients' willingness, drive, ambition, motivation, self-confidence, to be able to really just focus and to work hard to be able to achieve the successes that they have. So the first one, I would like to share is a gentleman who is still with me in my program. And within a 6-month period, he was able to drop his cholesterol numbers 253 points. His total cholesterol was roughly around 443. And we were able to get it lowered to 190. And your total cholesterol numbers should be below 200. So that was a huge success. And his triglycerides were at 375, and we were able to get them down to 140. And then in addition to that, he was able to lose 12 pounds as well. And again, this is over a 6-month period. So, sometimes people may say, oh, it's just cholesterol. But as we have been discussing in these podcast series, cholesterol or high cholesterol is just the tip of the iceberg. And if we don't work on getting these cholesterol numbers down, then it can lead to greater issues affecting your heart, possibly affecting weight gain, and then possibly other metabolic conditions that could lead to prediabetes. So this is one huge success that I'm proud of, and I really wanted to share with you guys.
Amen. That is a wonderful testimony, as we call it in the church, and I hope people are encouraged in knowing that it's not the end of the line, and there is always a chance for improvement. Amen. So, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Please continue.
I'm sorry. I'm so excited to share all these with you. Second one, literally just got off of a call with a young lady. She's in her mid-40s yesterday, and we were able to get her results of her blood work, and she has been with me for almost 9 months. So she came to me with stage 3 fatty liver disease, high cholesterol, hypertension, and was considered to be obese. She was roughly 55 pounds overweight. So for anyone who has been listening throughout our podcast, she would be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. And we were celebrating yesterday because after reviewing her blood work, her liver enzymes on her blood work were normalized. And it took us roughly 6 months to do this. Cholesterol numbers, everything. So total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and triglycerides normalized themselves as well. Her blood pressure is also normalized, and she has also lost 25 pounds within the process.
Wow. Well, Stephen, it doesn't sound as though you're selling snake oil.
Not at all. And, she was really happy, and she was also crying on the phone because, she was just like, I just don't understand why my doctor told me that my stage 3 fatty liver disease could not be improved. Mm-hmm. And, she was just overwhelmed and overjoyed, knowing that, she was just like, you know what? I respect doctors, but doctors don't necessarily know everything.
Right.
And, unfortunately, I just come back and I just say, everyone in their field, they study and they're educated in specific areas. Mm-hmm. And I said, I am educated from a nutrition perspective, also holistically and functionally. And I just said, you know what? God has placed everything to keep us healthy on earth. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't include medication. That includes the things that grow from the ground and from the trees. Mm-hmm. So food has always been and will always be medicine for the body.
Well, Stephen, after hearing these first stories of the journey towards wellness and having some success, somebody might want to reach out to you to perhaps even become one of your clients. And so, how could they reach you? I think it's better to mention this early in the segments before people tune out, as they say. So, how could somebody reach you if they were interested in becoming a client?
Of course, I would encourage anyone, and there is no cost at all. You can either reach out to me, send me a text message, give me a call at 305-467-8781, or you can shoot me an email, and it would be at Stephen@mastermetabolichealth.com. And that would be Stephen, STEPHEN, and then Master Metabolic Health is all one word, .com.
Great. I hope that somebody's inspired to make that inquiry. So I think I'm ready for another success story if you have one.
Oh, I got plenty more to share. Let's do one. So literally just had another. So this is a previous client. She reached out to me today after I left the chiropractic office. And she was so excited. So she had worked with me for 6 months. And she kind of got flustered with herself because she felt like she hadn't made any progress at all during the 6 months that we were working together. So this is the reason why she decided to, I guess, depart and try to figure out what was going on with her from a psychology aspect, because she knew that her mindset wasn't where it needed to be. But she reached out to me today, letting me know that, she had lost 15 pounds. And along with the 15 pounds, by losing that, she has, she suffers from type 2 diabetes, PCOS, hypertension, and high cholesterol as well. So this is another person who has metabolic syndrome. And what allowed her to make the change was last month she had a doctor's appointment and she found out that her kidneys were suffering. And her doctor had told her that she was slowly dying. And if she didn't make the necessary changes immediately, that would impact her health in a positive manner, then she would not be around much longer to be able to enjoy her life. And, she was telling me, I think this was the end of the straw for me, because she's like, I never had the support system when I was working with you. I felt like being a wife that I had to make sure that my husband was the number one priority. So even in the kitchen, I didn't feel like making or preparing two separate meals. And because he wasn't on the same journey as myself, he did not want to improve the way that he ate. So it was easier for me just to prepare the same meal for both of us, and for me to eat what he ate, so I wouldn't stress myself out by having to prepare two different types of meals. So I want to share this story because too many times I work with women who are married and have the same thought process, about my husband's number one priority. My husband's not on the same health journey as I am. So therefore, I don't want to feel like I'm stuck in the kitchen preparing meals for myself. And then I have to prepare different meals for my husband. And, I don't want it to get to the point to where you have to have a wake-up call like this client had, with her doctor telling her she's slowly dying and she needs to immediately make changes. I encourage people to try to be as proactive as possible instead of reactive. But, what we were celebrating was, with the 15-pound loss, she's also been able to limit her symptoms of neuropathy. And she says most of her aches and pains in her joints have now dissipated. And she was able to achieve this 15-pound loss by, number one, stop eating out. She's now preparing all of her food at home. She says, I haven't been to a restaurant in over 3 months. So she's like, you were absolutely correct when, I was explaining to her, it's better to prepare your food so you know what you're putting into your body. She's been able to achieve the best A1C reading that she's ever had since she's had type 2 diabetes. So she's extremely excited, and, she's going to continue on this path to improve her overall health.
Wow, that is a great story. Now, these stories demonstrate to us that with determination, lifestyle changes, and proper medical and management, it's possible to overcome significant health challenges and to go on to lead fulfilling lives. But you used the term a little bit earlier, and I just wanted you to kind of just describe to lay folks what you actually mean. You said you used the term metabolic syndrome.
Yes. So metabolic syndrome, medical term, more or less describes a collective series of metabolic conditions that a person has. And it includes being overweight, so having excessive fat in the waist area, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and then being insulin resistance, which leads to prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Unfortunately, with all of my clients who literally has metabolic syndrome, they have never ever heard the word before until they actually work with me. So that's a little bit discouraging for myself, just because I wish, doctors would actually utilize that term to help educate, their patients. But it is real. You can Google it, look it up, whatever you need to do. But yes, metabolic syndrome. So we want to be able to eliminate that, because once you do have 3 or more of those symptoms, then things can get a lot worse from a health perspective if we don't react quickly.
Well, I know myself personally, and we shared this before we went online, that at one point in my life, I decided to just simply eliminate sugar out of my diet. And I was basically eating small portions of meat and vegetables and some fruit. And in 1 month, I lost 10 pounds. Just from eliminating the sugar.
I believe you. Added sugars cause a lot of inflammation internally, and that inflammation can have a domino effect in many different ways.
And so do we have another story of success?
I have one written down, but I also would just like to talk about very simple successes as well. With anyone who's been diagnosed with a medical condition, I know probably the hardest part is acceptance. And then once we do accept it, then it's kind of like, okay, where do I go from here? So we have to be able to kind of like set goals for ourselves. And then those goals need to be small goals that are achievable. So, I have some clients who are still celebrating after 4 months, 5 months, and 6 months. They're celebrating adding 4 servings or 5 servings of vegetables every single day. I have some clients who are still building on the foundation of getting outside or getting to the gym and getting a walk in every single day. So successes are going to vary person to person depending on where an individual is actually starting at. But I also want to stress every small success is a huge success that will lead you to the end goal, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, we can have small successes with our diet. I mean, like I mentioned, I just eliminated the sugar. That success didn't last long, though. I'll tell you why. I had a catastrophic event. My house burned down, and people were giving me all sorts of, things to help me along, and some of those things were gift cards to restaurants. and as I began to use them, I kind of like psychologically lost my determination, as they say, to stick to my plan. And so we can get sidetracked. And so what do you suggest for keeping our vision and our plan, sticking to it psychologically?
Great question. Like the first one I would say is this: focus on changing one behavior at a time. So if we go back to what you were focusing on, the whole sugar aspect, I will have to tell you, most people fail at that. That is not realistic over a period of time. It's not sustainable. So what I would suggest, and we're just using this as an example, is knowing that your fruits and your vegetables have nutrients and then phytonutrients that are responsible and are labeled as anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, their responsibility is to protect the cells from inflammation. So maybe instead of saying I'm going to cut out all sugar, to make the goal more attainable would be to take a step back, maybe log for about a week what you actually eat. And then a more realistic way would be, okay, I'm going to cut back on the amount of sugar or added sugar that I'm eating, but then I'm also going to increase the amount of vegetables that I'm going to eat on a daily basis. So I know that I'm giving my body and the cells what it needs to help fight inflammation and to protect the cells from what we call free radicals. And that would be a very smart way to kind of like look at it. And then as your body gets acclimated and adjusted to less sugar being given to it, then you can continue cutting back little by little until your body gets to the point to where it's not going to crave it as much, or it gets comfortable to where you can operate and run on a daily basis with very limited or no added sugars. So that's more or less creating a specific attainable goal that is realistic to you as an individual, just really based on your specific environment, your lifestyle, your schedule, and all those types of things.
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned adding something to the diet, as opposed to just focusing on eliminating all that is supposedly not serving your body well. The cold turkey approach, which sometimes is unsustainable.
Yeah, and that's where the psychology comes in, because we as human beings, if we're being told we can't have something, what do? We want it even more. Or if we go the all or nothing approach and we try to remove something, then we as humans, we end up, I guess what I'm trying to say is acting more in a negative way because we're restricting things. So we're telling ourselves, oh, I can't have this, versus, you know what, let me maybe manage my portions of what I shouldn't be eating until I get to a place to where I am at a comfortable place to where I can just let it go. So the all or nothing approach never ever happens. It will always backfire. And you may be in a worse place, may have unhealthy relationships with food because of that. So I would never ever do the all or nothing approach, little bit by little, step by step.
And I guess that could apply, as you mentioned, taking small steps and having small successes when it comes to exercise. You mentioned just going out and have a walk, which doesn't require you to spend money and join a gym and go through all of this stuff, but the just simple act of going out and taking a walk.
100%. I always tell people God made or created us, the body, to move, not to be sedentary. And, I could have so many people tell stories about, when I first started walking, the swelling in my legs went down, the aches and pains in my joints, started to fade away. My cognitive thinking actually started to improve. There's numerous health benefits in just getting out and walking. Too many for me to even, to talk about or to list. But walking will always be the best form of exercise, the cheapest, that doesn't cost anything, for you to be able to do to kickstart a healthier lifestyle and to improve so many aspects of your health and wellness.
Hmm. And how about gaining a small success when it comes to hydrating yourself, hydration? So a lot of people don't even like water.
Tell me about it. And that's all I've been drinking for years. Yes, water. I mean, water, when I look at it, it is the fourth macronutrient. Our body needs carbohydrates to a certain extent. Our body needs protein. We need healthy fats. That's a macronutrient. And then water is the fourth macronutrient. A lot of people don't know that for our system to run and operate properly, the body needs to be hydrated. If the body is even dehydrated by 1%, then there's a lot of malfunctioning that is occurring internally that we are not even aware of. So water has to become your best friend. We want to be able to eliminate, like we've been discussing throughout this entire series, the sugary drinks, the sodas and stuff like that, and really converting to water. And for those who, don't like the taste of water because they're just so used to having flavor, so many different types of things you can do. You can add lemon to your water. You can also do infused water. So you can literally sometimes I tell people to buy cucumbers. If it's during summer, slice the cucumbers up, let it soak in the water overnight. That's very refreshing. Especially on a hot summer day. Or you can buy some fruits that you like and do fruit infused water. Buy fruit, wash it, slice it up, stick it in a jug of water, refrigerate it overnight, and then now you have flavored water that actually has a lot of nutrients and enzymes in it that has been soaked through the fruit. So you're actually doing more of a health benefit for yourself, with that infused water as well.
Right, and then again, there's also the note of caution about going into the supermarket and buying things that are marketed as that appear to be healthy, like maybe some sort of waters with vitamin additives or something like that that may also contain a excess of sugars.
Correct, 100%. Always, if you are buying bottled water, I would always just say buy plain old water.
Right.
There's a lot of marketing out there. There's a lot of studies being done with all these different types of waters like Propel and all these other types. It claims to have, alkaline properties and stuff like that in them and enzymes. I just tell people it doesn't need to be that serious. Don't sit there and waste your money on things like that. Focus on the important piece, which is improving your food quality and just staying hydrated.
Stephen, how about small successes when it comes to managing our stress? We talked about that briefly last episode, but how about just giving us a gentle reminder about managing stress levels that chronic stress we know can affect your metabolism?
Yeah, so let me see how I want to say this. So just ways to really manage your stress. The first one is practicing breathing techniques. And something like that would be just sitting in a quiet area where you can just zen out and literally just take small, deep breaths through your nose and then slowly just blow it out through what we call pierced lips. So just having your lips just barely open and then just slowly blowing the air out, through your mouth. Meditation is another great way, to really try to manage your stress. For me, I love to ground myself. So I will just get outside barefooted in the grass and really just feel the energy and just ground myself, be with Mother Nature. And I do that for like 15 or 20 minutes. There's so many different ways that you can manage your stress. Some people like to read a book. Other people like to pick up the phone and call a loved one because just speaking to someone and hearing someone else's voice can be soothing enough for them to kind of like relaxes them. There's yoga. There's getting to the gym and actually exercising, getting out for a walk. So there's a lot of different ways to manage your stress, but it's very important that we try to implement some sort of stress management technique because as we have discussed in our previous episodes, chronic stress, will lead to extra cortisol levels within your body, which can be detrimental to your overall health.
Mm-hmm. In our last episode, you mentioned the importance of getting the proper amount of rest and sleep. And you talked about people saying, well, I only need 4 hours of sleep a day, and I can be up all night long and hit it in the morning. But tell us a little bit about inadequate sleep.
Yeah, so studies can tell me sleep is one of the things, that continues to be studied. And studies still show 7 to 9 hours of sleep is what we should be getting. And of course, and that's going to vary by person. Me personally, I only need 7 hours of sleep. I don't need 7.5, 8 hours or more. But lack of sleep, even for one night, can be, and I don't want to really say detrimental, but can be harmful to the body, because one of the main purposes of our body resting overnight is for our body to be able to remove all the toxins and to recover from the previous day. And if the body is not given the adequate amount of time to do this, then things like the body can even be insulin resistant the following day due to lack of sleep. Your brain, from a cognition perspective, can definitely be affected the following day due to lack of quality sleep. So, and just think, if this goes on day after day after day for a long period of time, then it's going to cause a lot more harm. And I believe I had mentioned in one of the episodes that when we're talking about sleep, that it has been traced back with type 2 diabetes, that lack of sleep over a period of time has been the root cause. Well, now we're talking about root cause of many people's diagnosis of type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm. So, Stephen, let me say this. When your person wants to learn how to play tennis, one mistake that you can make is trying to teach yourself. I mean, it's possible. You can have good results, but often what I found is with people who want to play tennis or learn how to play golf, sometimes when you go out there and with your tennis racket or a set of golf clubs, you may end up teaching yourself a bunch of bad habits and things that are actually harmful to the wellness or your progress in the sport. And I think the same thing might apply to making these changes and placing ourselves on a trajectory towards wellness through diet and exercise. So what I'm getting at is that it's maybe good and helpful to reach out to somebody who's trained in this area to give you some guidance that will help you from avoiding those mistakes that can be difficult to unlearn. So again, I'm going to ask Stephen if you would just give us a way that a person could reach out to you, and if they're considering getting the help that they need.
Of course. Again, you guys, listeners, you can reach out to me by phone, text message, phone call, 305-467-8781, or by email, and that would be Stephen, Stephen, @master Metabolic Health, which is all one word, .com. And, just to piggyback on what you said, Reverend, I used to be one of those people in one particular time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all as humans think that we know what we need to do and we know how to do it. Until we try over and over and over again, and we fail over and over and over again. So, for the listeners out there, we can try to do something on our own, but it's going to take us so much longer. And that's going to be time. And I don't know about you guys, but time is very valuable to me. And especially when it comes to my health, time is extremely valuable to me, because I would prefer partnering with and working with a professional who is educated in this particular area. So we don't spend that much time, and then we can really focus on what I refer to as the main objectives that is going to give us the biggest bang for our buck and return on investments at a quicker speed. So we're able to see better results in a much quicker time, specifically when I'm talking about our health and our wellness.
Mm-hmm. So for example, somebody might have the idea that that if they transition to a fruit-only diet, that they may benefit from this, and they might. But there's also risks involved in juicing your fruits and eating disproportionate amounts of fruit, which can be not good for you as well. So again, I don't think a person educated and trained in this area would advise you to do such a thing. There might be people out there on the internet that promote different types of diets, and maybe they've come up with these theories on their own without much education, but just thriving from being birthed from a good idea. So
Of course, the internet is saturated with so many, I guess, with so much information. And from my experience with the feedback that I get, it's so confusing because people who do surf the internet, they don't know where to begin, just because there's just so much information around fitness, around health, about diets and all this other stuff. And really the only thing I can stress, to anyone who's listening, is there is no such thing as a cookie cutter program. And for the majority of the people who are on social media, who are sharing things with the rest of the world, they're sharing their success and what worked for them. And just because it worked for them does not necessarily mean that it's going to work for you or for anybody else. And, people who have multiple health conditions, people who may have food sensitivities, whatever the issues may be, digestive issues as well, there's much, much more that needs to be looked at and in more depth into a lot of things versus a person who doesn't. So that's why I always stress, you can surf the net, you can listen to people's success stories, but do not try to follow something that someone else has done, because their story is not the same as yours.
Mm-hmm. So how would we talk to listeners, encouraging them to take the first step towards a healthier life?
That's a great question. I actually took some notes on this, and if I can just have some time to talk about this real quick.
Sure.
So, when you work with a professional, and hopefully it would be someone, who's educated in this area, we really focus on the trans theoretical model. And this is really the stages of behavior change. And as we've gone through all of these episodes, we've kind of like have hit on the psychology of a lot of these types of things and being able to make lifestyle changes. And, the reason why we as a society are not successful in achieving the lifestyle changes that we are wanting to achieve all ties back to our psychology, which is our mindset. So, the first and foremost step in wanting to make change or improve, our health and wellness is being able to, number one, know where you currently are along this behavior change model. Because if you're at a pre-contemplation stage, or if you're in the contemplation stage, you're not going to be able to make the necessary changes, or any changes for that matter, to improve your health. And this is something that I really spend a lot of time with, with my patient clients. So just to really quickly go over, what these stages are, the pre-contemplation stage is just someone who does not intend to take action, in the future. It's someone who isn't aware that their health condition or the behavior is problematic. And, it's going to produce negative consequences. And I like to stress this because unfortunately, there's so many times I hear people who's diagnosed with health conditions, but they continue to feel and say and think that they're going to be okay, that it's not the end of the world. And it's because they're not educated about the negative effects that can continue to happen if they aren't being proactive and taking the necessary steps to improve, their lifestyle and their health and wellness. And then the next stage is the contemplation stage. So this is where I spend time with people, kind of like from an education perspective. So they are more aware of, their health diagnosis, and if they don't make the necessary changes, what could possibly happen months or years down the road. So this is an individual who will take the information, look at it, and then are starting to think about making the necessary lifestyle changes to improve, their overall health. And then there's also the preparation stage and the action stage and the maintenance stage. But I kind of wanted to go over those two first stages because the first step has to be, number one, accepting the diagnosis that was given to you. And then once you do accept that, you have to get to a place from a psychology perspective, knowing that this is serious and you're not eliminated from the additional health concerns or issues that can arise if this particular health diagnosis is not taken seriously and the necessary steps are not taken to improve your overall health and wellness and lifestyle.
Hey, man, a thought just popped into my head. And you talked about accepting the diagnosis that's been given to you. I called, and that usually comes from going to the doctor, right? And getting a report, blood work and all of that type of stuff. I called yesterday to make a annual physical, appointment. And they gave me an appointment. This is April. They gave me an appointment for November. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. So my question then is this. Basically, that's leaving me to think that, well, I can't get my blood work done for months and months and months out. Is it possible as an alternative to go to one of these labs and get your blood work done?
So it is, but 9 times out of 10, to be able to go to a lab, the doctor has to be able to write something up. So I guess it really depends on the relationship that you do have with your PCP or the specific specialist. And then if you have to wait that long, then I definitely would pick up the phone and see if the nurse or the PA, if you can't speak to your doctor, can actually write up a prescription for you to be able to go to the laboratory to get your blood drawn so you don't have to wait that long.
Mm-hmm. And then, at least if you get a report on the results from the blood work, you can at least know if your numbers are within a specific range, for each thing on that panel, as they say. So
yeah. What I would really like to stress and suggest is any type of blood work that is done is always sent out to a lab. So my first thing would be, if you don't know where your blood work is being sent to, ask your doctor what laboratory it is. Every single laboratory, to my knowledge, has an app. We are all on our mobile devices. So after figuring out what laboratory your doctor uses, then go to your app store on your mobile device and download that specific lab's app. Once you do that, log into the app, get your profile set up. Because once you do that, from there on, all lab work that you have done will be uploaded into the portal, into your your specific into the portal for you to be able to log in and for you to view. And I've conditioned my medical team over the past 17 years that when I do my follow-ups, all they really do is ask me if I have any questions, because once the lab work is completed, I get notifications on my phone. I literally log into the app. I review my lab report myself. If there's any questions I have, I literally will just take notes. And then when it's time for my follow-up with my doctor, they all know that I've already reviewed everything. And then if I have questions, they're written down, for me to ask. But really the most important thing is when you're looking at it through the app, everything is in color. Because I've also heard, doctors may share my lab report with me, but it's just in black and white. And the most important thing is when you see it in color, the most important thing you want to look at is for anything that is in red. Because if it's in red, that means something is too high or it's too low. And if it's in green, then it's normalized. So only pay attention when you're going through, to look and see if there's any red.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a wonderful first step. I mean, after you've actually made up your mind to do something, because one of the habits, and I guess I used to do this myself, was earlier in life, was just go get the blood work done and sit there and wait for the doctor to tell you, or the nurse who calls you, or somebody who calls you and tells you, oh, we found this, or we found that. It's better for you to review the results yourself and seek clarification from the doctors and be informed about the condition of your own body and the results.
100%. If there's anything I can encourage the listeners to do from today on, is be your own advocate of your health and take ownership. Don't rely on or wait on someone else, because we only have one life. This is your life. So own it and take full ownership of it.
Amen. Well, I think we're just about out of time. Stephen, I want to thank you dearly for joining us in these last 8 episodes now, and hopefully sometime in the future you will return and bless us again with wise counsel as in terms of helping us to get on the trajectory of wellness. So thank you so much for coming. I look forward to doing this again at some point. And you've been listening to Faith Talk. I'm Reverend J. Stewart Glover. I believe that God is concerned with us holistically, both spiritually, in our bodies and in our minds. So again, thank you, Stephen. I would encourage the listeners to reach out to Stephen Beard and perhaps get some more information and consider becoming a client. I would advise you to, or at least request you to visit my website at www.reverendjstewartglover.com, where these episodes are listed. They're available on to share with your friends on iTunes and Spotify and iHeartRadio and Amazon. The technology is there for you to share with your friends. So God bless you, and place yourself on a path towards wellness. Amen. Amen.
Amen.